Hey friend, I have a guided reading for you today. Feel free as I'm talking to gaze at the cards, see if anything tickles your own intuition. Remember, some things are going to resonate more and some things are going to resonate less, but the important part is that you're growing. So let's go ahead and get started. Guiding our reading today, we have unity. Okay, unity being that feminine and masculine and balance, that wholeness and connection, that starting point before the separation of the masculine and the feminine, right? Before the separation of the physical and the non-physical. It's that source that we all ultimately start from and that we all ultimately find ourselves returning to. Right now, while we're in the physical world, we're just kind of in this energy of temperance, right? It appears this pouring back and forth, right? You know, when it comes to co-creation with reality, with life, you know, you take a step and then the universe takes a step and then you take a step and the universe takes a step, right? This interaction that you find yourself in, this connection that you've experienced with yourself and with reality and with nature, this back and forth, this process is transforming you and really helping you to grow. Now, maybe you've experienced something recently that was difficult that you didn't want to experience, right? We have death. Death being that reminder, though, that when something old passes away, it is, in fact, the nourishment and the compost and fuel for the new things. Maybe you've gained certain wisdom from your experiences in your life, and you use that wisdom in order to make good decisions now, in order to, really make better decisions for your future and where you want to grow. But sometimes when we experience this loss, when we experience this energy of death, where there are things that, we wanted to hang on to, but we had to let go of, or, whatever we're not wanting to experience, sometimes we find ourselves in the Seven of Swords, right? Where this queen here, she's watering this blue rose, this magical blue rose with her power that had originally wilted, and her subjects who were taking her to the rose garden came to her and asked for help, right? Maybe you find yourself wanting to take control in circumstances in your life and pour energy into something that you need to let go of. And when you do this, you cause the other areas of the garden around you to grow, right? We see the vine starting to wrap up around her, and she's not noticing. So maybe if you have something you need to let go of, but you've been putting that energy in to trying to sustain and maintain that old thing, you're also creating other difficulties that are related to it, or at least don't, seem immediately related to it, but are somehow connected to it. You're creating situations for yourself that really are going to keep pushing you toward letting go of the old thing. And sometimes that can be a little difficult, or if we're smart enough to pay attention early, it can be easier, right? We have the Five of Cups. There's that grief, that pain, that loss, right? You are, in fact, allowed to grieve those cups that have spilt. You're allowed to let go of the thing, the old thing, and feel sad about it. You can feel your emotions. Nobody's ever telling you that you need to, be a robot and just let the thing go without any connection, right? It's perfectly natural for you to feel grief over loss, but this being the Five of Cups also is a reminder that you still have beautiful things in your experience, and you still have things that you have maintained, and you've still got new things coming for you. And that regardless of whatever path you take, the universe is going to get you to your goal, to your destination. The star, right? She's got her water that's pouring into the pond here, and then she's got this other vessel over here pouring onto the land. Whether you choose to take the more difficult path in fighting to hang on to an old thing, or whether you choose to focus your attention on celebrating the beautiful things that you do have and that are coming into your life, ultimately, all the water runs down and it reaches the same oceans. It reaches the same source of water, right? You're going to get where you're going regardless. You can just choose, what road you want to take. Do you want to take the hard way, or you do want to take the easy way? Now, maybe some people are pressuring you to do things a certain way, right? We have the priest, the high priestess, or Hierophant here in reverse. Now, typically, he's our structure. He's our, tradition, ways of doing things that give us a framework to experience our reality, to, connect with each other. But when in reverse, what we're getting at here is that you don't need to necessarily fit a certain framework. Maybe you started a certain practice and things didn't work out just right for you. or maybe, you know, you don't really feel that you should be connected to a certain, you know, image, certain routine, whatever. And this is perfectly fine because, you know, whether a tree is being grown, you know, by somebody who is tending it, you know, trimming it, you know, pruning it, or it grows out in nature, it's going to grow regardless, right? And it's okay for you to have your own personal little small space in this connection, in this bigger picture, right? With the Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles is in fact the juggling energy, but it's also this sense of like having enough for yourself, right? She's got her little nest here. She's got her basket, her food. If you tend to yourself, if you tend to your own life and the things that are important to you instead of feeling like you have to save the world, then this is going to be a lot easier for you, right? And you're going to realize that you do have a path, that you do have your own adventure. We have the Knave of Wands, our Page of Wands, right? That's that excitement, that is starting off with something brand new, your own thing to be excited about. This gives you, you know, some sort of a, you know, impetus to study, to some sort of, you know, chance for you to really learn the terrain, right? We have the two boys here in this Three of Wands that they're looking at the map book, right? That is also the seeing the ships coming in. You chose a path and you're learning about the things, right? You're really learning about the territory, you're getting the map. And when you do that, though, and you step into the real experience, it becomes something completely different. We have the Devil. This is our primordial energy. This is that soup from which all potential and all life really springs from, right? And maybe it can be a bit scary because when you connect to this very primal, raw energy, you know, that is the source of all things, and you're not prepared, or maybe you just haven't grown to a certain point, it can be a little bit overwhelming. However, this serves a purpose. This serves a purpose to prepare you, to bring you to a point where you can make choices. Our Nine of Wands here, the fairy boy, seeing this dragon, you know, which, you know, was being gifted to him and the other fairy boy when they were younger in the form of the egg. When you see the dragon and you realize that it's bigger and more powerful than you and that you can't really be in control of it, when you realize that you're, while connected to the primordial energy, while you are connected to the source, you are not necessarily, it's not really your position to try to say, like, force things, to will things to be like, this is this, and this is exactly how I want it, and it can't be any other kind of way. You find it more productive to actually come into a relationship with life, right? We have the Lovers, that connection between the heart and the mind, right? Our ability to follow our intuition, our logical ability to really make, you know, good decisions and plans. You know, this, when you step into a relationship with the divine, as opposed to being like, I now have this power and I'm going to do this way, exactly what I want, how I want it, you know, that's when you really come to understand yourself. It's when you really come to know who you are, the hermit, right? When you dance in that relationship between yourself and, you know, nature, between yourself and divinity as you see it in whatever that form, your realization is that you are very much an extension of that it's not a separate force that you're trying to command and control any more than a leaf is trying to command and control, you know, the tree. Everything about the leaf is tree, but the leaf isn't the entire tree, and you come to realize that you're kind of somewhere in between, right? You have a certain amount of individuality, yes, but you don't need to worry about if it's my willpower versus the universe's willpower, because when you know that you are an extension of that your will is the universe's will, right? You know, using that tree analogy, you know, if it's growing fruit, right, that fruit, let's say this fruit is an individual, has the will to grow, has the will to be full and rich, and, you know, and it's not like it's doing that despite the tree. The tree also wants all the fruit to grow. The tree also wants the seeds to spread. Your will, your natural will, whatever it is, when you get down to the center of who you are, when you get down to like really who you are and not just like the kind of surface level stuff, you find there is no separation. You find that you've had the magic all along. You are the magician, right? You have your own individual talents. You have your own individual skills, your passions, your energy, your intelligence that you bring forth to life, right? That's when the oak tree knows it's an oak tree. And, if the oak tree's will is to grow, it's going to grow. Just like a strawberry plant's will is to grow, and it's going to grow. But the strawberry never becomes the tree. And then the oak tree is never growing strawberries. You find your unique gifts, your unique will exists just as naturally a part of who you are. Life wants to life. And then when you experience difficult situations, it's a 5 of wands instead of death, or instead of like a 5 of swords, right? The 5 of wands being where you would have those individuals play fighting, practicing, really honing each other's skills and helping each other grow, right? Life is going to create situations. It's going to give you these eggs, which grow and hatch eventually into these dragons, because you want to grow. You're inspired by something out there that you feel is special and fantastic and wonderful, and you want to grow. So the universe is going to provide you some sort of circumstances for your growth. Now, you're getting the hang of this, like, I want to grow. I'm really feeling my passions and desires within myself, and I'm connecting with life, right? And there's this relationship, this back and forth. And you come into the King of Wands, okay? The King of Wands being the mature version of the Knight of Wands, right? The Knight of Wands is like, I can do everything, and I'm going to try to do everything. Versus the King of Wands, he has the same passion, but instead of spreading himself out, I can do everything, he knows he can do anything. You can pick a thing and do it absolutely to its finest, to its best, to its most fantastic. But if you try to spread yourself out, you don't really get quite the success, right? So you have your gifts, you have your own natural abilities and talents that you've discovered within yourself, and because these are the things that I have, these are the things that I like, and I'm going to put my talents toward that specific thing. That is where you get the expansion. That is where you get the growth with the Eight of Wands. Okay, your own personal power, and then being able to take that energy and say, what I want to focus on, and then you putting your energy toward that. Your growth happens as a result of the focus. Your growth happens as a result of where you're putting your attention, your energy, your emotions, your actions. That's where new potential grows, right? And you have the Empress. And this is actually where a lot of people get stuck on their manifestations. And this is sometimes where I get stuck on my own manifestations, is you get up to the point of the Empress energy. You feel this potential. You feel this excitement. You got this new thing that you're ready to birth, and you're waiting for it to come into existence. And this is the point where people give up. This is the point where it's like, I've put in the energy, I've put in my thoughts, I've directed my emotions, I've taken the right actions. Why don't I have the thing? You keep going, right? And you're almost there, because eventually you reach the tower. That's when the thing that you've been focusing your attention on comes into existence. That's when it pops in. That's when some opportunity, some sort of change, some sort of experience, some sort of epiphany, whatever it is, happens after you build up enough pressure and you realize that you have the ability to create your reality, and you have the ability to free yourself from any limiting circumstances. The Eight of Swords, right? That's the blindfolded lady, bound up. She could take the blindfold off. She can undo the bindings. Any situations that are in your life that you don't want to experience, you have the ability to change, because your relationship to the universe, that reciprocation between you taking action and then the universe taking action, and you taking action and the universe taking action, has taught you who you are, has taught you that very life and vitality and beauty that you see in something else, that you see something as wonderful and special, that very same thing is in fact you in a different shape. You take those gifts and you decide where you're going to put your energy, and you decide where you're going to put your time, and you really focus into that, and that is when you free yourself. That is when you come into a true power as a co-creator. All right, friend, I hope this was helpful. If it was, I would absolutely love it if you would leave me a like. I have a fairy tale now if you want to go check that out, or if you wanted to check out any more of my tarot readings, go check this out over here, and I will see you in the next one.